Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Alright, hello everybody and welcome to episode number 6 of War Room. I am your host, Raffle Waffle, as usual. And tonight we're going to be talking about tactics in the competitive scene and what some of the major tactics are and how you outfit your mechs and your team to make sure those tactics are successful. So, start off, introduce our guests. Hooray, why don't you start yourself off?
Hi, I'm Harry78. I'm a pilot for Steel Jaguar Gaming, NA and EU, and I'm the drop caller for the EU Jaguar.
Alright, and thank you for being on the show. Versi, this is your second time back. Introduce yourself.
Versinix, member of 228, but currently for tonight I will be representing Mercstar, the competitive gaming website, and I write a large number of articles for them, delving deep into the mind of competitive gaming.
Alright, and Defunct, an actual pilot here to represent the 228.
Defunct from 228 IBR. I am a drop commander, and I kill shit.
Alright, Homeless Bill, you're in this call as well. How's it going?
Oh, it's going alright. I'm representing QQ tonight. I was on their RHOT team and I'm one of the council members.
Alright, and one of my favorite recurring members, we have Not Magician, also known as Sace. How's it going, man?
It's going great. I'm Not Magician Sace, been on a couple times now. Light Lance lead for the Remnant.
Alright, so basically tonight is I wanted to take the time to outline the different tactics that different teams use in MechWarrior, and what those tactics are, how they're effective, and the different ways that you can outfit your mechs to make sure that they are as versatile but also as effective as possible. So I want to start off with one of the most common ones, which would be the murder ball, the death ball. So piling all your mechs together and basically wait for an opportune moment, whether it's when the mechs are split up or whatever, and charge into your opponent. So I'm going to start out with Harry. I know Steel Jag runs that strat a lot, especially on the smaller maps. How did you guys develop that?
Well, I guess so. The basics of MechWarrior tactics are that you want to have all of or as many guns as possible on your team on as few of their guys as possible, as in you're getting as few shots back. So the death ball works when you manage to pile into part of their team and just try and basically, once you've got them separated by kind of using the base and having to worry about certain areas of the map, you can just use that then to basically blitz one part of their team, and you're going to take it down before they've done any effective damage to you. So I wouldn't say it's something we developed, but it's definitely something we use when we get the opportunity.
I guess I should say use incredibly effectively, not necessarily developed.
Refined.
Yeah, I mean, you see it a lot in brawling because of the engagement range. By the nature of the engagement range, you want to get everyone around that's able to fire on the targets at the time, and you know it's effective for good focus fire. That everyone's there, everyone's able to shoot the target, and it's not just get everyone together and just throw them over the ridge. You know, there's a certain amount of positioning once that happens, trying to create a perimeter and making sure that everyone can get shots in.
And so, oh wow, I completely just blanked on my train of thought. No, sorry. So this kind of developed a lot from light play in the lighter compositions, where it was more the 550 comps in Merrick, and I believe what is the Run Hot or Die light comp? Is that 550 as well?
I believe Run Hot or Die is 550.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So those tend to at some point or another devolve down into a brawl, but that's usually light mechs, which is a much different style of brawling than it is with a heavy or medium composition. And so I think it's sort of developed from there, but it's definitely become a very common strategy, especially on those small maps like Frozen City, for example. I think I see it almost every time. But so what I kind of want to do is I want you guys to just talk about tactics. So, like, feel free to jump in and be like, well, we use this to counter that, etc., etc. So I'm gonna pick on Sace. So Sace, what do you guys do to counter like a murder ball when you see it coming?
That's the question. I mean, we've had to revamp our style a lot. Remnant has always been known for sniping, snipers, PvC, pop-tarting. It's kind of what we do. A lot of direct damage on point. When it comes to the murder ball, at least in the lightweights, we've had a lot of success adapting sort of a BSK playstyle with, a whole bunch of mediums, maximum 20s, focus fire, pinpoint that's in CT, and go from there. At that point, I really just don't like the term murder ball. I mean, there's a lot more tactics involved in how you engage, where you engage, everything else, but at that point it pretty much just becomes a focus fire race.
Defunct, I think you were going to say something before I called on Sace. Am I correct in that or not?
No.
Oh,
not
okay, never mind.
correct.
I thought I heard your mic cut in. So then what would you say are the more finesse parts of the murder ball?
I mean, really positioning is one of the biggest things. If you can find where you're at, I know we had a match with Blazing Aces a couple weeks ago where we pulled them into the back corner of Colony. And at that point, when you can have your sturdier mechs blocking most of the shots, and you can put out the damage longer, really just the big thing is, doesn't matter how many people you have at 30-something% armor, just as long as they're up and moving, firing.
Yep. And
it varies a bit from QQ. I know runs a very heavy streak brawl that opens up a whole lot of armor, and then they tend to crit seek or just wipe you out from there.
Yeah, definitely. We run a pretty streaky strategy usually with light killers. We do tend to capture a lot. We tend to just try to avoid the big death ball brawls, and we'll snipe a lot, especially nowadays. But that capping option is pretty much always there, at least for our alpha team. I don't really know how Dark Crow runs his team, but we tend to do that. Like I can't. One of our matches against BSK, I think it was the 860 drop. It was Frozen City, and they got pulled away sort of towards Theta, down there in that lower part of the city. And we had all 4 of our light killers run through the tunnel as fast as they could, sit on their base, kill all the lights that came really, really quick, and the rest of their heavy team couldn't get back. So we just try to skirmish until we can get a better position. But it's a really odd strategy.
And so that kind of brings it to the point of, like, how do you adapt these strategies to fit certain situations in certain maps, which is obviously, we have X number of maps and we could go through it for, hours and hours and hours talking about every possible scenario. But as a general rule, so, you mentioned streaks are fairly common for you guys, but I know AC-20s are common for other people and stuff like that. So for a murder ball, do you guys think that mech loadout matters a lot, or do you think as long as you have fairly similar builds, as long as the builds work together?
I would say it matters a lot, especially at the lower weights. I can't speak to murder ball at heavyweights because it's not something we do, but the lightweights, I mean, running a build that everybody moves at the same speed or similar, you're maximizing, firepower. I know we've started bringing just one, because we have one pilot that does it, but AC-20 Hunchback with 5 medium lasers, and he pretty much just is there to open everything up and move on. It at the lower weights, it gets really, really close in what you bring and why you bring it.
The builds are always very varied in those lower builds, other than you have a ton of Jenners.
Yeah, well, I know QQ and we just finished scrimming, and I think our lights and their lights swap builds at least 3 times in all of them, trying to get the leg up on the other.
That's always the good arms race. So, like with the murder ball, you have one of the most common counter tactics to it, which is counter flanking. So you wait for them to push in, and then you hit them as hard as you can in the side. Excuse me, drinking too much beer. Hit them as hard as you can in the side with, like, you know, some AC-20 Cats or a set of AC-20 Jaegers, and you just drive a wedge into the side, split up their team, and hopefully cause enough damage that they either get disorganized and you can deal with them, or you just outright wipe them. I know that's personally my strategy when I come up against a murder ball, but have you guys... There are other situations where you can use that too. Do you guys find counterflanking to be very effective in many situations?
Yes. Counterflanking is always good.
Talk,
Especially-
Defunk. Give us the word.
Well, when I drop command, I usually always try to go for the counterflank. Because it's just easier to kill things when you got their backs, right? Because they're usually in comp drops, they have like 10 armor in the rear. And it's easy to ruffle that way. The hard part is actually getting your whole unit to move as once to make that counterflank happen. But if it can happen, it's beautiful, and it's awesome. And needs to be done a little bit more, I think. Because that really is the hard counter to murder balls if you think about it. You use your lights to find them, to find where they're moving. Use the lights to bait, get your heavies and your mediums to go around and get them.
We see a lot of teams, especially in the 540 drop deck, who kind of just throw their brawler spec mechs in there, and it all just becomes a clusterfuck of running around and exposing your back to people, and Jenna's going to be chasing the backs of mechs and so on, and what we've really been trying to work on is what you want to be creating is like almost a perimeter around the enemy. Let them do the running around and exposing their backs to your mechs. But this idea that, you know, counter flanking, it's a similar idea as to what we're trying to develop, where we're just trying to create a line of firepower that's going on to the focus target, and as their mechs are scattering around trying to run through for their target, you know, who's trying to pull through the back, everyone else has got different angles on them, and people are calling them backs out. Yeah, counter flanking, you know, if you can pull that off, I mean, it's difficult in this game to try and get the timing right, but I think it's more about just making sure you've got that perimeter, not moving into the middle of their group and exposing yourself badly.
Yeah, it was very hard. It's very hard to accomplish, especially the way seismic sensor was working in the past. But now the way seismic sensor is now, it might be a little bit easier to accomplish.
Yeah, you absolutely can't have the murder ball crash into you like one of your two split forces. At that point, you're just not looking good. But if you can get the timing right, you can really get them jittering around.
The seismic change has really helped the element of surprise, unless, well, not necessarily unless, but you need really good light scouts to make sure you know exactly where everybody is. You need good UAV placement and stuff like that. Whereas before, you could just hide behind a hill and be like, well, there are 6 mechs on the other side of this hill, I shouldn't move over.
Pretty much.
Information warfare.
Yeah, Versi, you've been sitting there with your thinking face on. What are your thoughts?
Just listening. I agree with most of it. Murder Ball's a scary SOB. I know it's one of the things that a lot of units aren't usually practiced against. We're so focused on a current style of play currently with the whole jump sniper game that the idea, you know, what we've classified as a murder ball is really, it's just counter sniper in most cases. And at that point it becomes, once you figured out that they're playing the counter to you and you're actually playing a easy counter to them, it's a information warfare game. It's, you know, can I find out where they are and maneuver my team into a position that better handles the situation than them. I know with SJR, who pretty much scalpeled our team with the murder ball in Merrick. The one time that we gave them at least a scare was we threw a UAV up, and there was the entire team sitting on the other side of a hill ready to do the push. And that instant, our entire team backed up 600 meters. And we forced them to have to basically go out in the open, and if they wanted to continue that murder ball, they had to either maneuver themselves in a long, drawn-out method, which, slower mechs would be towards the back, faster mechs, and possibly string them out. And then possibly, our team was more range-based, so the more space we had between them and us, the better. However, it didn't work. We made some bad tactical decisions on that, and they are able to capitalize on it. And that murder ball, while not nearly as deadly as it was in the other two matches, still ended up tearing us apart.
And so, you mentioned, obviously, jump sniping, which I do want to get to, because it is one of the most popular tactics in every variation off of jump sniping from there. But have you guys noticed a decrease in the effectiveness of murder balls with the newest buff to artillery? Now that that's 400 damage, like air and arty, especially with a murder ball, if you can catch them coming through a tiny spot, you can do a lot of damage. I mean, I've seen like 800 or so damage mechs that shouldn't be doing 800 damage that do, just because of a good arty on a murder ball. I know most of you have at least tried it or run one at some point in time. Have you guys noticed a difference in their effectiveness since the arty damage increase?
No.
I would say definitely. I mean, it's really easy to catch them guys as they're normally funneling through somewhere. And I find that the arties and airstrikes are really softening up mechs for us when we're countering it. We don't tend to do it a lot these days. When we're seeing it from other teams, they are taking a lot of damage to try and do that.
It also gives you a stopper for murder balls. I know on Crimson Strait, dropping an arty strike on those ramps pretty much guarantees that you can come through, or even the gap can come through and take the ground you want.
Oh, especially if they try and push Armpit on Crimson Straits. Like, if somebody tries to push Armpit on Crimson Straits, and you drop an arty right on that hill, it's done. They can't deal with that, especially if you have a good firing line set up.
The thing about that is, if the murder ball is already pushing, those arty strikes really become null, right? Because the murder ball's already moved past that point where they land, where the arty strike is supposed to land at.
Especially because the distance, too. I mean, a proper murder ball, like when SJR was doing it, I mean, they covered 200 meters to our team. I mean, that was the distance. I mean, at that point, if you're trying to throw those artilleries right in front of them to slow that murder ball, you're throwing it on your team.
Yep.
So I think that it required the murder ball to have more tact, but I mean, a murder ball can throw them right in the middle of their team. I mean, what's more, destructive, you trying to throw it on them, or you're sitting there waiting for them and they throw it on you? I mean,
right. God save the queen.
It works both sides. It's, it's not just the team. I think it's the strategy too. I mean, SJR pulls off a very fast, deadly, tight knit, brawler team, and if you're not ready for that, you're gonna get torn apart. It doesn't matter if you have an artillery strike.
I view the artillery strike airstrikes more of like a really hard counter, not a really hard counter, but a counter to Pop-Tarts. Because you put one of those on a ridge where the Pop-Tarts are going to be Pop-Tarted from, they're going to back off of it. It's going to save you some time. Maybe if you're like a brawl-heavy team, give you some time to move in on them.
On the same end as Pop-Tarts, I love the arty strikes and the airstrikes. It pretty much means you can force people from cover into your big mechs to shoot them down. Big maps like Tourmaline's a good one. When they group up out there under Stargate, lights can go on their back and just light them up, push them into your team where you want them.
I have noticed a lot of... I was just going to say, I have noticed a lot of really interesting play with like a lot of lights with a lot of air arty, forcing mechs to move out of positions that they want to stay in. But sorry, go ahead, Harry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the best counter, and it's a cheesy thing to say, but the best counter to a death ball is scouting and positioning. If you've got a ranged deck, if you haven't got a brawling deck, if you've got a brawling deck, then you want to be probably hitting their death ball with your death ball. If you've got a ranged deck, you don't want to push up to ridge before you know whether they're the other side. It's just positioning, make it so they've got to cross ground. Once you know, once you're in a position that they can't approach you without crossing ground, then you're just going to start squeezing them in. And you're right that it's not really a massive counter for them, their Marties and so on. But when they come across that ridge or when they come through pocket, you count off the maps, and I can see loads of games where they'll come through as a death ball. It's easy to get their Marties on them and get tons of damage on them. And these days, with the changes they've made, who the hell can actually aim once their Marties are hitting you? It's it's crazy.
Not to mention if you have a couple teammates jump sniping next to you and somebody happens to die, because then your screen's just shaking all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's pretty much a good segue into jump sniping, which is obviously.
Boo.
Yay!
Yes.
I mean, let's talk about it. Like, what do you guys? I want to hear everybody on this one. Actually, I want to hear what everybody thinks about A, the effectiveness, B, how it's best used, and then C, whether or not you actually like it as a strategy. So I'm just gonna go down the list. Harry, start us off.
Okay. So, I mean, it's something that SJR uses a lot because we think it's the current meter. Some people are using a lot of AC20s at the moment, and we tend to as we go lighter, but these days it's just, the Highlander is king. And we use it a lot, and you use it completely differently. It's about spreading out, it's about making people never quite know where they're going to pop from, and just suppressing people. And it's still really effective with when you've got good pilots that can counter that cockpit shake. It's a really tough tactic to try and counter, and it makes a lot of mechs redundant because of how strong it is.
And so, do you guys usually prefer Cataphracts and Highlanders, or have you switched over to using Shadowhawks instead of Cataphracts now?
Well, I've actually found, Highlanders are always consistent, but I know we have always been almost max Cataphracts whenever we can bring them. If you can bring 3, we'll bring 3. And anymore, we've been stepping away from that for more Shadowhawks. Being able to slap on that AC20 and still bring some range to brace up your sniper line, give fire is amazing. I think we are seeing an advent of a much stiffer spine on the sniper teams, wherein you can still harass them at range and they have to push into you or, try and counter it. And when they get in there, they find themselves in the face full of AC-20s. It's no longer the
very
paper
potent
doll that gets rolled over.
Yep.
But that's an interesting question, though. I mean, why would you guys bias the 3D over the Highlander? I mean, we try and get as many Highlanders as we can in the deck at the moment. What do you guys like about the 3D at the moment?
Oh, we've always, at the max weights, we've always been bringing as many Highlanders as possible, but, 3Ds over things like Victors. And we've always enjoyed, we run a little bit faster. I know a few of us run the AC5 double PVC, where you're going upwards of 80, and you can reposition. But anymore, just being able to bring the extra firepower of the 20 on the Victors and the Highlanders, it's not worth it anymore to see the 3D in most matches. I mean, it's kind of there as the support sniper to your big boys, or your glass cannon.
I totally agree.
He adjusts quickly, he can get the shots that the other guys can't get, but he can't take the shots. And even in the more medium weights, we're seeing, we want to bring a little bit stiffer mechs because we have those Shadowhawks in there, back them up.
All right, Versi, I know you've got some strong thoughts on this one. Let's hear it.
Well, it's actually funny because this exact conversation I'm responding to on a Reddit post for an article for Mercstar. I won't go into all the details of what the article's about because that's in the future for War Room, but it's the concept of it, because I'm not gonna. I'll let the commanders do the commander talk, but the concept of it is you're packing onto your mechs 30-ish, I'll say 30-ish, alpha strike damage, and all of them have armor like Atlases. And throw onto that you have the jump jetting, which eliminates a target, and suddenly the target reappears somewhere else, added to the fact that when you are jump jetting, the chance of hitting a different area other than a left or right torso or CT and hitting a leg and for all intents and purposes wasting damage and heat is a very, very potent, dangerous thing. In many competitions, you're looking at a situation where it's on assault. I'll ignore conquest for now, and you have one goal, and that's to kill the other team. You have a secondary goal of cap a point, but almost no one does that, and usually the only time that happens is either you're losing and it's a last-ditch effort, or you completely missed the other team on a map. And when you're talking about killing the other team, it's how effective can you do it, and not just how effective can you kill them, but how effective are you at not getting killed. And the jump jet mechs of choice, whether they be the Shadowhawks or the Cataphracts or the Victors or the Highlanders or
Let's be fair,
goddammit,
it's just those four. Let's be really honest.
Well, and Jenners to fit the weight, which are also not. I'd actually throw them almost into this terminology because that's the team basis, or at least the meat of those teams. You're always looking at high alpha, fat, jump jetting mechs, and its survivability and damage in the best package possible, the optimum package. And until something changes in the meta that would the choice of bringing those, they're going to stay strong.
Yep. Yeah, I just want to keep going down the list because I know all of you have varying insights on this. So, Defunct, how do you feel about the current jump sniping meta? I know you personally are a fine jump sniper, one to be afraid of, but how do you feel its effectiveness is in team games, both Assault and Conquest?
It's, to be honest, it's king, really. It's probably one of the strongest strategies to use. I mean, you minimal exposure to fire, maximum damage output, and then LOL, your way to victory. It's usually the team that could, spread out and make the enemy confused and just get the shots on that need to be taken. Really, I mean,
Do you feel that there is a better... I guess this is the really important question. Do you feel there's a way to counter jump sniping other than jump sniping yourself? Like, do you feel that there is one strategy that if taken against a team of, 3Ds, Shadowhawks, Jenners, Highlanders, can win with, greater than a 50% average?
LRM Highlanders.
You really think so?
Lermlander?
LRMlanders, I mean...
I can't tell if you're joking or not.
Well,
I'm serious.
Okay.
I was actually been playing around with it since Vils made that post, and I was like, "Oh, let's fucking give this a try." And it's amazing. You pop up at your arc of your jump, you shoot those LRMs, they go right over those buildings, and you hit those pop tarts right on top of their heads, and then they gotta move.
Mm-hmm.
The trick is in comp play, which I haven't really tested. This is in Lawton Pug, so I don't know how much. Validity or whatever the fuck that word is. Counts
validity.
for.
Validity, there you go.
There you go. I don't know how much validity that holds. I haven't tried a comp play. I would love to. But the only drawback I can see from it is you're gonna have to have spotters, like real heavy spotters, like a Jenner or a ECM Raven out in the backfield spotting for you. But that's really the only hard counter I could see for Pop-Tarts and or brawlers going in through cover, weaving their way through cover to get to the Pop-Tarts. And that's the only thing I can think of.
I just noticed a question in chat that Sace answered. But why don't you answer it on the show, man? Feel free. So the question was, question: do you guys find jump jet sniping to be tactic to be stale because it is somehow the end all be all of tactics? And Sace, you responded, so I'm gonna let you take this one.
Really, I mean, I've found that jump sniping, while the end all be all kind of king tactic, has really given way with a lot of the changes. I know people kind of get the Pop-Tart is still king, they didn't fix anything. But now, with the PPC changes, the heat changes, ERPPC is just too hot, almost, to be usable. It's gotten a lot, and Gauze being not as valuable, on the jump snipers at least, it's gotten to where you have that chance to close it in. And at the 800 weights and the big ones, jump sniper is hard to counter. But at the other ones, you see BSK running ridiculous amounts of fast AC-20 mechs or things like that. There's a lot more viable options now that ballistics are coming up, and jump snipers are having to be just a little bit better and a little bit smarter in what they're doing than they were before. So I think it's actually gotten more interesting now than it ever has been.
I would say the meta. I know Versy's going to slap me for using that term so broadly, but it's shifting so frequently. Like what people are using depending on what kind of match it is, and it's going to change way more with lobbies. But that's not a topic for the show.
I'd like to actually chip in on that question too.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I'll hit you up in just a sec. But all I was going to say is that I would say that the pug play meta is definitely not the same as the competitive play meta at this point, and that the competitive meta shifts not only dependent on if there are any restrictions in play, but on the weight class. So you don't see the same comps for light mechs that you do for light drops that you do for heavy drops and medium drops. So I'd say that it's definitely not stale. There are certain things that you don't need to do them to win, but it makes winning a lot easier, but it's definitely not stale. Sorry, Versy, what were you going to say?
Okay. So I'm gonna nitpick at words because that's what I do. When we're talking about tactics, I will never say that jump jet sniping is a stale tactic. I think it is a valid tactic and should continue to stay valid. I'd say that the thing that is stale is the lack of other tactics available to be played.
Yeah.
That's the real problem. If there were more tactics, and only 1 in every 6 teams did the jump jet, tactic, that would be fantastic. And I'd love to see that, where lerms, can be brought more often because they are a counter to sniping. And, if you're able to see the map that you're about to drop into, you can go, oh, lerms are great for this map, like Alpine. And suddenly you have a team that is up on their tactics, and they know that, and they have studied the opposing team, and ta-da, they bring lerms, and the other team just eats lerms all fucking day, and it's Trollololfest. As to a player, I am really tired of jump jetting. I did my fair share of the jump jetting. The 3 PPC Gauss Highlanders and all that good stuff, and I love it. It's a great tactic. I love piloting. It's great to see big numbers and watch mechs lose limbs and die. But when it's so prevalent, it just makes me cringe seeing all the things that aren't getting used and all the mechs that should have a place in this game and just don't. Because of that.
AC-20s, they're still my favorite counter to jump snipers. But
yeah, I'm a big 20 fan, but it's
Stalker Misery.
Oh yes, Miseries
is the
anti
anti-Pop-Tart.
It's just because they're so good at peeking. Bill, what do you think about Pop-Tarting? Enlighten us with your glorious knowledge.
It is by far the most effective thing. It's like being able to put more than 20 or 25 points of damage on a single component is really just no matter what range it's at, the most effective thing you can do. Like, if you could run an assault with 4 autocannons, tell me you'd run anything else. You know, if you could run a dual AC-20 assault, you know, you'd have some combination of long range and short range, but if you wanted to go brawler, you'd just bring all AC-20s. And I think that ends up being why it's so much better. And then you've got the problem that it's really just effective at every range. You know, even when they close in, you've still got a really good chance of killing them, especially if you're in a good formation and have a little bit of spread between you. So it's not, I don't know, stale, I guess, you know, just because it's old and it's been around for a long time. I think it should be a viable strategy, but right now it's just completely overpowered compared to everything else. And I don't support like a buff of everything else to make everything else kill stuff really quickly. I just think that it needs to be nerfed in some way. But as it is, there's just nothing that is more effective. And I would agree with Harry that, frankly, the Highlander is the pick of the litter. I mean, I think it's totally worth it over the Cataphract just because it can absorb so much more damage and it's so much harder to focus a single component on it. It's just... I run it once at the end of the night after I'm grinding XP, and I just feel bad. Every game that I run the 733C, it's just unfair to anyone who is not running something similarly cheesy. I feel fucking bad. And it's just, you know, I just hope that at some point they really take care of the problem, because it's like, well, let's chase the problem around. Let's nerf the Gauss rifle. Let's increase PPC heat. It's just like, you're just going to move it around to ballistics more, you know? I don't know. I think they're just chasing the problem, and until they really address it, it's not going to get fixed, so enjoy.
The problem's easy, though, isn't it? The problem is just jump jets.
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
Siri brought up a really good point last week. I don't know how many of you saw it or heard it, but if they were to scale jump jet use by weight, so like on a Highlander, if you only take 1 jump jet, it takes, I think the math he said would be like average of 3 full alphas before you could jump jet again, and just like scale that as a recharge time per jump jet used, that would make it a lot more effective, because you can jump snipe on a Highlander with just 1 jump jet, and those things are 2 tons in a Highlander. So if you cut that down to make it where to jump jet for every alpha you needed like 3 jump jets, that would make it way more, that would make it much more of a commitment to jump sniping. You wouldn't be nearly as effective at close range, you wouldn't be able to take as much AC-20 ammo, or you wouldn't be able to take as many heat sinks, or you'd have to go light on armor. Like, either way, if you cut down on the frequency of jump jet usage by weight class, it would really solve a lot of problems.
Actually, that's one of the better solutions I've heard.
Dude, Siri literally just blew my mind when he brought that up. I was like, holy shit, that would be so good.
Yeah, and PGI knows about that one, because I told them in very angry detail on why that would work.
I've got to pipe in there, though, because my only issue with that is it just doesn't solve the Jenner, because the Jenner can easily take a lot of jump jets, and it's the reason the Jenner's so much better than any other light is because of the jump jets.
That's
So
completely true.
it's probably solving every other weight class, but it's not solving the lights.
The lights, it's a different... I mean, at comp play at least, the Jenner is king. Agreed. It's solved, I think, the way the hitboxes and hit registration worked, it solved your Jenner packs ripping apart bigger mechs. Now an AC-20 is a much scarier thing for a Jenner, but you're still seeing a lot of variety in certain lights. So you see the large laser Raven doing 300-400 damage a match. I personally love spiders. When they get fixed, I'll reevaluate that one. But just the utility, and really, in comp drops, lights are all utility.
And the other thing is that you're with the jump jets for Jenners, you're not looking to nerf light mechs with, you know, they're the idea, at least when I was describing it, is that you're making them have to pay attention to their jump jet usage. With the situation that, you know, Siri talked about, and what I've been, you know, saying for it too, is, you know, I'd like to see where mechs aren't just leaping all about and Jenners are easily able to use jump jets to immediately get behind a target and 30 them in the back. I want to see them have to work for it and watch their jump jets, and that timer has to tick up a little bit. And if they do decide to bring 5 jump jets or whatever the max is, don't kill me for all those Jenner pilots out there.
Version X, there are 4 max jump
Yeah,
jets on
there
3
you go.
different Jenner variants and only 1 on the K. I can't believe you call yourself a mech warrior.
Yeah. If they do that, then that means you're throwing out more armor, and God forbid, troll-a-lol-fest on that one, or you're giving up heat sinks. And at that point, now you can't alpha, and you have to chain fire, and now you're having to pay attention to heat and your jump jets. And, that's, at least at this time, it's really going to show the true light mech pilots when you have to juggle 3 things instead of 1.
I would say that nerfing lights with jump jets is not a great idea. If it's going by weight, you should not see a change in the lights, and really, if anything, lights are going to need a buff real soon, especially with hit registration and hitboxes coming around. The Jenner does its job, but it makes up for it in the fact that you get blown up pretty damn easy. Good pilots, good teams.
Twin AC-20s, GG.
AC-20s are ridiculous. You have to avoid
They're
ballistics
so
like the plague.
good. Oh my god, I love them.
But the problem is that that I'm talking about is that it's really easy to just switch things around on the Jenner and have loads of jump jets, and it's still viable. We run a lot of jump jets on our Jenners, and just any light without jump jets, apart from the Raven, because it does a completely different role. It's got its own little role there. There's something that the Cicada with the PPCs used to do, but the light scouting role, where the lights are going to be fighting each other, that role, just jump jets are just you couldn't consider a mech without jump jets for that role because of how strong.
What
they are.
about the Locust?
Yeah, okay.
And no, I was not serious, just in case.
Yeah, I mean, I just, for me, that nerf, I think it's good in 75% of the case, but I just think it doesn't fix the light case. And I think I understand what you're saying, that lights need to have that survivability, that being able to get out of there with the jump jets, but they need to do something else then, because who takes even the Spider's got jump jets that people take. What mech would you take that doesn't have jump jets?
I honestly don't know, but I don't really play lights in a composition.
A Raven 3-0.
I guess I'd run
2
Ravens
Yarlars lasers.
or Cicadas, yeah.
3-0 with 2 Yarlars lasers. I saw still.
But I mean, even
with that.
even
That's ridiculous.
even in games where we don't have jump jets, like in Merrick, there's a no jump jet restriction, and even in those games, they're still Jenners. You just take the jump jets out because Jenners are still like the most effective light. Just for people watching, the mechs that are up next for Hitbox Fix are, of course, the Spider, and then the Orion, Atlas, and Awesome. I'm actually really excited to see how they tweak the hitboxes on the Awesome and the Atlas.
Same here. So excited for my Awesome. I really hope that it's not just a total piece of shit and they blew up the side torso so it can't run an XL now.
Am I the only one that hopes the Awesome still sucks? These things are ugly
Yes.
as crap.
You are.
I hope
No,
nothing is fixed and they're still complete crap.
Sace is never allowed on the show again.
I
No, I'm just
want
kidding.
Every mech in this game to be viable. That's like the end goal, I think, for everyone that plays this game, is to have every mech viable and to be able to play in competitive games. So yes, I want the Awesome to be awesome.
The trouble is that it's not the hitboxes that are the problem on the horse. There's so
Exactly.
many problems with that mech.
But,
it doesn't have
the-
jump jets. The hard points are in a terrible location. It's massive. What can you do with hitboxes to fix that?
Not much, really. I mean, the one thing it got for is a fucking blade of grass when it turns sideways.
You have no sympathy for me that your Awesome is broken. Lights get 2, maybe 3 mechs that we could use. In between the 65 and 75 ton range, you guys have all those sorts of viable uses. So the Awesome can stay crap, in my opinion. Fix something useful.
I'll trade you the flea for my Awesome.
I will give you my locusts for you just keeping them. I won't take the awesome at all. You can just have them.
I don't want them. I don't want the ones that I've got.
Nobody wants them.
I want the pretty baby to be good. God damn it.
My Army Hero mech, such a waste of money.
I am excited about the Orion getting changed, though. I
Me
don't
too.
really see the Atlas as something that needs to change that much, but the Orion's terrible. The hitboxes on that really bad.
I guess we've sort of moved a little bit away from tactics, but that's just fine. The only other major tactic I have on my list is the pincer, which is, you know, as old as time, and not necessarily super effective in MechWarrior. So, if you guys want to talk about it, we
SWK
can
does a
talk
good
about
job of running that.
They try.
I mean, talk about it, guys. Like, if you think it's viable,
Oh.
I mean,
Well, I mean, it's simple. I mean, hammer and anvil, pincer, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, I talked with Ara when I was running the light team for competitive play, and basically how you counter it, because we were having trouble with that situation, and it's very simple. You have your super heavy team and you have your really fast team, and you strike them from two sides at the exact same time. And the better that you can catch them putting their back to one or the other, the more successful you will do. And the counter to it is that you either catch one of those halves out of place, or you completely annihilate one before the other one gets there. So it's certainly a valid strat, but I don't know. I think that the other strats that we discussed are a little bit more easily refined and less
they're also more
flip
versatile.
of a coin.
Yeah, well, they're more versatile, which comes down to a little bit to mech loadout. Oh, Jen, just a second, defunct, sorry. But like with pop tarting, you can if you put in UX on those Highlanders, you can still brawl pretty well with them. And with like those other strats, depending on how you load out your mechs, you are still very capable of engaging at multiple distances. Whereas with a pincer, unless you've got like a really specific setup in mind where you have to make it work, I would say that it's not necessarily as versatile of a setup. What were you going to say, Defunct? Sorry about that.
I was going to say, the pincer is only useful in some situation.
There you go.
Like, maybe in River City, if the team is chilling there at the Citadel, you have one going lower and the other one go around. One, set of mechs go in lower and the other go around the water and create that pincer. That's the only real way to use the pincer. And this is very limited in its use.
Mm-hmm. And I would
I
have
don't
to
know.
agree.
I kind of view it as needing a little luck. And
Yeah.
in a game like this with high caliber players, you don't want to rely on that to be your trump card.
You need to rely on luck or bait, and I mean we'll talk about troll strategies in a little bit. That's how we're going to close out. But yeah, you need to either rely on them moving into a position without knowing where you are, or you drawing them into a position. So it's rough, especially on Conquest, where people are usually more strode out.
The only way I see pincer as well being really valuable is if brawling comes back in a really big way.
That all comes down to SRM fix, which I've
Yeah.
fucking beaten to death on this show, so we're
Yes.
not going to talk about it.
Yeah, you have.
Holy balls. Two entire episodes is being like, SRMs really need to be fixed, guys. So, yeah.
Hashtag fix SRMs.
Hashtag.
The pincer is the pincer maneuver. I mean, it only really works in this game if you are long ranged and they've got a bunch of close range mechs. So you can just keep squeezing them from multiple sides, so that they've got ground to cross to try and attack any side. Because I mean, the easiest counter to the pincer is just to go, well, okay, so we'll cover ourselves from that part of it and we'll hit the other part. But as long as you can, you've got a full deck of long-range mechs, you can just be covering ground from all angles. And if they try and attack one of your one of your groups, that you're just going to drop mechs. It's something we did use the other day in open play, but I don't see it a lot used in competitive play because everyone's taking long range mechs versus long range mechs.
Mm-hmm.
If you tried to do it against another long range deck, they're just going to hit you on one of your separated sides.
Yep.
All this complaining about, I would agree that certain aspects of the jump just are superior, but I mean, we've seen ridiculous amounts of variety since what it used to be when it was super. It had a death grip on the game, really, which was
That
the
was
worst
before
part.
a lot of really big important fixes, though. The Gauze change and Ghost Heat, which
Agreed.
say what you want about it, it did fix the fucking 6 PPC Stalker and the 732, the one with 3 PPCs and a Gauze rifle, like that. Those were the really ridiculous parts. I would say jump sniping is at a point where it's not necessarily overpowered is such a strong word to
Overpowered's
use.
a bad word.
It really is,
considering-
because it requires skill. Like, for good players, good jump snipers are very overpowered. Don't get me wrong. But good player on good player of equal skill, there are ways around it.
And also, I mean, really, it's a hard argument when the top team right now, which is kind of SWK, has come out as this top team, is known for a lot of various strategies that involve kind of brawling almost. They're the rough and tumble guys, whereas the rest of us are the kind of jump snipers.
It's because you can effectively brawl with PPCs. I mean, it's up to the player to keep that safe distance of 90 plus. But you could effectively brawl with PPCs. I do it all the time. That's what SWK is really strong at.
Now, are you talking just with the PPCs and then ballistic backup, or ER PPCs? Because right now, I think actually that ER PPCs need a fix. They're just far too hot to be useful.
I do it PPCs.
Regular PPCs, yeah.
Regular PPCs?
AC10 and 2 PPCs is what I have on my 3D, and it's so, like, I don't know. I think you can stay outside of 90. It's not very hard, unless it's like a light mech. Because if somebody's torso twisting, you're going to be able to, like, watch where they're moving and watch their movement pattern and figure out where they're going so that you can get that 90 meter buff. Then you just jump jet turn, hit them once, and keep running away and keep them at 90 meters.
And even if there's a light mech up your ass, those couple ballistic shots, you're going to land. A good player is going to land those.
AC10s still hurt really bad.
Yeah. Those ballistics are going to hit. It's going to scare that light. You're going to either kill it or they're going to run the fuck away, and then you're going to hit them with your PPCs and give them alphas and whatnot.
Yep. So those were the main strategies that I thought of. Do you guys have any? I mean, obviously, don't reveal your like super secret. I'm gonna beat Steeljag and SWK this next turn strategy. But like, do you guys have a strategy that you fall back on or that you use frequently?
Strict NATO.
Streak NATO.
That's
For those of you who are unaware, Streak NATO is mostly Kentaros and or Shadowhawks now too. Shadowhawks work as well.
Jenner D's.
And Jenner D's with as many streaks as you can fit on and as much BAP and ECM as you can.
Are we
pull
talking
off.
about 228 streak NATO?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
God, I hate that thing. I will have to say, as a light pilot, that is a scary comp. That is just, oh.
I had to play against it once. It was totally brutal.
It was brutal. We ran into it I think it was when it was first coming out.
Yeah,
First
we
rollout.
actually tested it on you guys.
Yeah, thanks for that, by the way, because it was just, I got rolled into hard, and, oh, that one. is
As many
beautiful.
streaks and AC-20s as you can fit in a 550.
Yep. That was beautiful.
I like the, I don't know, my favorite so far has been, the go-to has been BSK coming out with 9 trebs, I think, or a ridiculous amount of trebs in an RHOD match.
That's
6
so many AC20s
medium
and
with-
so fast.
Yeah, well, it was burned into my memory because we were running a team of, like, snipers with, some mediums to back them up, and so it's rolled over.
AC20s are still my go-to. I mean, you can give me, well, I don't know. If you gave me all of the really good jump sniper pilots, I'd probably take that. But when I'm building a deck, the more AC20s, the better. It's just way more fun.
I think the lighter decks really favour AC20s. Many as you can get in the lighter decks.
Yep, for sure.
I think as it goes up in weight, it's just as many Highlanders as you can get. It tends to be what we can do, and we don't tend to take the AC20 on the Highlanders, although I've seen other teams do it. Try and hold teams off a lot further than that, to be honest. But yeah, that seems to be how I'm building decks these days. Light decks, as many AC20s, and everything's got to have jump jets. And then the heavier it gets, the more Highlanders you can get. And it's funny, we come against, in EU, we come against a team, really good team, Varangian Guard, Russian team. And
God, that's how you pronounce that. Holy shit, that's been bothering me. Alright, keep going.
Absolutely, they're a quality team, but, for them, they literally min-max it. I mean, when we did the 860s, the max deck, I think they did 8 Highlanders, 4 Jenners. And then they went down to 760. I think they did it was like then 6 Jenners, 6 Highlanders. It was like literally, if it wasn't a Jenner or a Highlander, it was because they had to fit something in. Yep. It's surprisingly effective, but it doesn't feel like we're that much more creative at the moment. Although we do tend to not specialize quite as much. But yeah,
that's the one thing about restrictions is you see a lot different, similar mindsets. We tend to stick with a direct damage, long range meta, but you see a lot of different things. We have I think 2 no PPC matches coming up this week, and I've seen a lot of ER large lasers are really great now. That Stalker with 4 or however many want to pop up on it, doing ridiculous amounts of damage. The other thing is the Gauss Jaeger.
Yep, totally underutilized.
Oh, it's beautiful. I mean, we've seen it. I can't remember who ran it.
228 was running that a good bit.
Oh, it must have been you guys, because we saw
we
it
were running like
month.
3 or 4 of them.
I want to say it was somebody else that we dropped against in a match, but it might have been you or BSK or somebody that was running them. And it was about a month ago, and they tore us up, and I got around to it until like the last month when we started pulling them in, and it's just an amazing convergence on the weapons, and
they shoot so fast. Like the projectile speed is so fast.
I watched Wolf Spider's game against Varangian Guard the other day, and they basically won because of Gauss. And I'd really written Gauss off. It was quite an eye opener. Because Varangian Guard just sat with their jump snipers. Of course, Wolf Spiders kind of pinned them down at really long range, and they're just trading way better damage. They only have to hit 60% of the shots Varangian Guard were doing, but the damage they were doing from them Gauss was just so much better.
Yep, Gauss it's very effective, and it can be effective against jump snipers too, because you can peek with those Jaegers as long as you don't get picked off in the torso, because you do go down easy. But you can hit jump snipers really easily. The Gauss rifle shoots so fast that as long as you're a decent shot, you can still pinpoint targets on a jump sniping mech.
Well, you can get them in the 3Ds as well. 2 Gauss. Mm-hmm. I've seen 2 Gauss, 1 PPC. That was quite strong.
What?
So fragile.
Holy God, yeah.
That seems like something. That just seems something way too fragile. And if you're putting them in the arms, those cataphract arms are horrible.
Every time
I don't put anything
I
in my arms.
Every time I see one, I LOL and kill it quick.
Yeah, if you get the chance, but he's staying right at the back of the group, really
a lot of damage,
as far
too.
back as he can.
No, that's true as well.
Oof. Ugh. That's twin AC20 damage at long range. Yeah, I mean, do you guys have any other strategies that you like to use? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to what's going to be my favorite part of this episode, which is you all have to name one troll strategy that you've used to just have fun. All right.
We don't have fun. You're SOL there.
We had fun once. It's terrible.
The 228 motto.
Is it really?
Not yet, but it's certainly one of the possible choices.
I always thought it was.
It's
like
certainly
that
said
idea.
enough.
My personal favorite, and hold on, I'm gonna link the video in chat because it's just so glorious.
Part of the reason it's so glorious is because we got it on film.
So this was spawned of in-house 12s, and we were all like, "Oh my god, it's so boring, blah blah blah. Let's do something stupid." So I decided that I would put one of my best friends, Damian Stranik, a guy I've known my entire life, IRL. I decided I'd put him in a stalker, and I made him take all of the armor off of one arm. So we start the game, and I just popped him right in the arm, so he started smoking, and I was like, alright, go cap Theta on Tourmaline. And he walks up, and he's just like, I was like, alright, so you've got LRMs, right? He's like, yeah, I've got LRMs. I was like, alright, just stand there and be as obvious as possible. So he's standing on the point, arm smoking, only LRMs and a medium laser. And I just hear him over comms be like, guys, they're all coming at me. They're all moving in. And I'd spread everybody out either side. And as soon as they hit him, we just like crushed into him from both sides. It totally worked. But yeah, I just linked the video in chat. It's hilarious. So, it's called Damian's Gambit. Feel free to use it. It will never work in a competitive match. But it's fun, and the game is about having fun at some points in time.
Oh,
So
don't say that.
Sometimes, only sometimes.
In our training, we usually do stupid drops right at the end of training, and one of the ones we had a lot of fun was turned the game into like an MMO. So we was doing like escort missions, where you've got an NPC and you've got to get him to the quest point. So we had like an escort mission with one Atlas escorted by 11 Jenners, and they weren't allowed to go too far away from him because otherwise he'd despawn. And so we're charging this Atlas, and it happened to be Alpine, and he's going directly NPC style straight to their base, and the Jenners are running around trying to swat anything that comes near him. And we managed to do that with the Atlas. We did one Jenner going at about 80 kph with 11 Atlases. We did, and then we failed horribly with an Atlas and 11 Trial Spiders. But yeah,
Oh,
that's
trial
a fun
spiders.
one.
Oh,
You gotta
no.
try it.
I like that. What about you
And then
guys?
you
You're all
declare
standing.
yourself a winner.
You're all
when you
sitting
get
down
there.
here, serious face, being like, "We don't have
We
fun. This
don't.
game is super serious, guys."
I don't think we've ever run anything super trolly. We run a lot of, when we get time in, random 12s, we'll run, preferred mechs. You see a lot of blackjacks, and then you just feel bad for rolling over certain teams in, your pulse laser blackjack. But last night we've started playing me and a couple of lights have started enjoying a game of Raven bowling, almost, is what it turned out to be. Where you take your large laser ravens, you hide out in the back of the enemy force, and then you take turns dropping Ardian airstrikes on them for max damage.
I like that.
Nice.
I was always a fan of the shut down your mechs behind your base, and then when they finally come to cap it, you murder ball them. You all boot up at the exact same time and just hop down the hill right onto their team. That was always a good one.
I have never had that be effective in the times I've tried it.
No, it's not effective. You can't play that competitive. But
I've just never pulled it
the
off. I
random
guess that's what I
12-man
should say.
queue, I know I've seen a number of units who shall go unnamed fall for that one.
I know I heard a story about Templar pulling one of those on one of the units in Merrick last
And it
week with
didn't work.
with 12 Atlases, and it did work.
Oh, it worked?
It's Templar. Templar always outweighs every team by 400 tons.
Because they've tried that once a few times. Well, actually, I'd say a couple times with us with like 8 Atlases and then something else, and it was like a 12-0 match. They are getting better, though. I'll give them that.
And if they would just, get out of the 1,200 tons, I'd like to see it, but... and
Come on,
it depends.
Templars, join a tournament. I want to have you guys on the show, but you
Yeah,
need to
Templar-
be in a tournament. God
Templars
damn it.
are getting pretty scary, I must admit.
I mean,
using
they're
they're
good.
using
I,
their-
Learning.
I've seen real like competitive builds out of them, like 750s and shit like that.
And then they have like different units now that practice different strategies. So they got like their their light strat team, and they got their like, Atlas team, and then they have their their 800-ton team. And
That's the problem. There's like 6 teams of Templar. You never know,
I know.
which.
And before
really
Templars.
What's really scary is their Highlander unit or whatever. It's getting very fucking scary because, my God.
Yeah.
they're running the hardcore competitive drop deck now, and they're learning how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
You can always know which one is the original Templars if you look for Han Solo, the only light pilot running around in Jenner in that drop. That's how I tell which one's which. I'm like, where's Han Solo?
Alright, there he is. That must
Black
be the real one.
Draken.
Yep.
Starting to learn all their names.
We see him so much in the queue, it's hard not to know them all.
That is the tactic, though, right? Isn't it? Just go maximum weight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you don't have weight restrictions.
That's a tactic we didn't bring up.
A lot
Bringing
of
1,200
tons.
I would say
Gee. We
That's
also
just
didn't.
retarded.
served.
We also didn't
Pretty
talk about
retarded.
like speed comps and running away, but that's fine because I have more episodes and I never have enough content, so that's fine.
Kiting is always fun.
Kiting is always fun. Speed comp is one of my favorite things ever. It's a pain in the ass. I feel like it's going to happen a lot more in Proxys. Proxys is going to be interesting because while it's not as like super hella competitive as the other ones, because you can get those really unbalanced drops, you will see 1,200 tons in a drop. That will be a thing. Like you will be able to see 12 Atlases in a Proxys game just because there are factions that can afford it, and why not?
I'd rather see 12 Highlanders.
Well,
Yes.
12 Atlases isn't scary at all. Not
12
right
Atlases.
now. Not scary.
12 Highlanders.
Yeah, no,
Scary.
I actually get excited when I see 12 Atlases because it's
I'm
chump change.
gonna clone myself 11
Yeah.
times, put me all in Atlas Founders, and then we'll show you who's scared of 12 Atlases.
And then you'll fix SRMs.
Ah, ha, 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 ha. And then I'll work for PGI and make so much money. No, I'm just kidding. Any other trolley strategies or things you guys wanted to talk about? I'm fine with this being a little bit shorter of an episode.
But I want to talk about what Chaos Maverick said.
Nope.
Yeah,
I should
say,
be looking at
Yeah,
my
good
chat.
question.
Oh,
The
there it is.
DPS versus Alpha.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's totally fine. I'm down with talking about that. So the question was basically he wanted to know what we thought about having DPS and mechs versus Alpha Strike damage. So stuff like the UAC versus the AC-10, kind of things like that. What do you guys think?
I like the hard-hitting... I like the hard-hitting Alpha.
Yeah.
Get all that damage on one panel, call it done. Make
See,
another shot.
I'm
DPS
so
doesn't
torn.
matter if everyone focus fires a target and kills it.
Right, exactly. I'm really torn because I still hold old strategies in my heart from back in closed beta, where UX didn't jam and all that jazz, and SRMs were still really good, and you could run a couple UX, some SRMs, and some medium lasers, and just constantly spit out damage, make it so that nobody could even see you, much less like shoot at you. So I still like DPS. Still feel it's a viable build. Like the Twin AC5, Twin AC2 Jaeger, while not necessarily super competitive, could be utilized in some different ways. But you can't torso trist with constant damage is a huge problem with it. You can't, like, if you're shelling out constant like cycles of medium lasers and UX, you can't be torso twisting as effectively. And if you can't be torso twisting, it means you're not spreading your damage. And if you're not spreading your damage, it means you're going to die to people that have pinpoint alpha. So
A healthy mix of high DPS and high burst, I think, will be very good in comps. Like, I have a Highlander with an AC-20, 2 PPCs, or another Highlander with the 733C build, and the other one, the 732 build, with the 3 PPCs of Gauss. I think that's really a really good mix of damage to have. High DPS mixed with burst is it's beautiful.
My issue
think-
with DPS seems to be that, your best DPS mech is things like the Jaeger, and again, they can't torso twist if they're going to keep that DPS up, and they're
I
just
think-
too soft.
I think that's the biggest problem, is not being able to torso twist.
And they're just too soft. I mean, if you had a tanky mech that could DPS and force people to actually be the ones to turn away from him.
Let's see how they fix the Atlas hitbox. Like, if they fix the Atlas hitboxes and make it more of a tank than it already is, because that's basically its only role right now, you could see the return of DPS Atlases, I think.
I think it has a role, but it's definitely secondary.
Yeah,
I mean, at this
absolutely.
point, like, you can really rip stuff up in, like, Cataphract 4X even, but you have to have other people drawing all the attention away from you. You have to catch someone that's already having a bad day, and you can help melt them. But it's just definitely not going to be the backbone. Like, if you took a total DPS team up against a total alpha team, the alpha team is just going to kick the living shit out of them. They can just peek out, take a shot, and head back. And there's just nothing you can do about that. It's got a role, but it's just not primary anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the way engagements always tend to end up is it's, minimum exposure, get your shots off, then get yourself covered, and right now it's that 30 alpha. Everything's got to have that 30 alpha at least. And some mechs are trying to pull off 40 to 50 alpha, but that's one of the other things that makes the Highlander so strong right now. You can fit the 2 PPCs, you can fit the 2 U85s in there, so it's got that ability to do the 30 alpha and pop down again, get into cover, or it can, if it's not being focused, it could just start streaming off them UAC5s, and so it's kind of got a role, but it really needs to be secondary to having the alpha, because you're just not going to get a chance to do any DPS. I mean, if a mech is streaming ACs at me, I'll show him my weak arm, and my team will kill him while he's facing me. I don't think. I thought to myself, even with 12s, that you'd be able to find a mech in there that is going to be an AC5 or AC2 Jaeger or something, but it's still, even with 12s, you're trying to expose the minimum amount, so it's not these big engagements. That's where it really shines, where you get a big engagement where everyone's kind of visible to each other, and then that AC mix can just be off. But you try and get that kind of engagement against a jump sniping team, it's not going to work. They're just going to hold their cover and get their alphas off on you.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that also we think in these set terms, but before the Phoenix pack dropped in the middle of America, I know I usually assume when we're talking strats, you talk, the upper weights, but QQ was rolling, Bill, you and your guys were rolling those Kintaros that did ridiculous DPS. Sheer voodoo, in my opinion, with where these things would pop. I mean, one was the fact that I think we had, 6 games on Canyon that match, but those Kintaros were...
Yeah, the Street Taros work great for, all you've really got to do to make DPS work is, like was mentioned, you just have to get into that big engagement where focus fire is harder and you can cycle out, and it's just a big mess. Once you get to that situation, as long as you can close the distance and you have enough streak power, it's a real pain in the ass, because whoever's being streaked really can't fight back. They're just being shaken to death, although it's not nearly as bad as it was back in the day of the streak cat reigning supreme. But still, you can make it effective. It's just really hard to pull off if the other team has good positioning and knows when to retreat.
Yep. Streaks can be very, very, very good.
There are only, short-range missile right now.
Yeah. Let's not even imagine the Streak SRM6 or Clan LRMs. Seriously, if we're not going to talk about that, that would take hours. Yeah. Anything else you want to touch? I should check chat. Chat, you guys have any questions?
That is the question.
Give them a few. Yeah, that is the question. Give them a few seconds to catch up.
They're good.
Yep, we already covered jump jets versus no jump jets. All right, I guess Quick shout-outs, and yeah. Start at the bottom, Sace.
Oh, start with me. Come back to me last.
Okay, fine. Actually, I'll go first. So I'm launching a new show. It's going to be either Sunday or Monday. And you'll notice I didn't do my normal sum up of where all the different leagues are at. And it struck me that instead of doing it buried in the War Room episodes, it'd be better to do a new show. So I'm going to do it called War Room News. It's going to be 15 to 20 minutes every Monday or Sunday. I can't decide which yet. It'll depend on my schedule with school. And basically, it's going to be a little bit more kind of showy and lore-y. I've got Maltese already sent me a great video, which we're going to see for the first episode, and I'm just going to do sum-ups of each and every league and what they're about, what's going on in each one. It should be pretty fun. So I'll show you guys the overlay and a sneak peek of what it's going to look like really quick. So this is what it's going to look like. Classic news channel, all that jazz. You'll get to see the full thing on either Sunday or Monday, as I stated. Alright, and then next week, Thursday, I'll be doing another show. I already have 3 confirmed guests. Versi is going to be back on to talk about his most recent article, which is entering the competitive scene and metagame. We've also got Sir Trent Howell of BSK, who I've been trying to get on for like 3 weeks and just keeps being super busy. I think SWK and BSK had a best of 5 on Assault, which took them, 4 hours or something ridiculous to complete. And then I'll also be having on SWK's Twinkie Overlord for next week. The next 2 guests are still to be confirmed. As usual, thanks everybody for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. It's fun having everybody. It's fun doing this. I really enjoy it. Videos will be up on YouTube, etc., etc. I'm sure I've got more to share, but we'll do that when we get back around to me. So, Harry, start us off.
Shout out to Magician and Glory for the Steel Jaguar gaming team. Great team. Really happy to be on it. And quick shout out to the EU team, Steel Jaguar, as well, for fantastic season in Run Hot or Die and Last Mix Standing. You guys are a real pleasure to play with. Thank you.
All right, Versi.
I'll do a shout out to Mercstar, which I write a number of articles for, and looking to steadily improve and bringing the community top-notch information on the competitive gaming for MWO.
All right, and Defunct.
My shout out goes out to the 228th IBR, bunch of good guys. We have fun, we kill shit. And to Prop Panda, the most beautiful woman to ever play MechWarrior Online.
All right, Homeless Bill.
My shout out goes out to Bourbon. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, so there have been some people playing a War Room drinking game, and I keep meaning to post the rules at the beginning of the show. I'll make sure to do it for next time, because it's really good. Alright, Sace.
Quick shout outs. General Highway, which has been delayed. Don't blame me. Playing my co-host. Shout out to the Remnant, and upcoming the Remnant Invitational, which is going to be a double elimination 16-team tournament to fill the downtime before we have RHOD and Merrick back up again.
Alright, I guess that puts it back to me. I guess all I'd want to say is give me a quick follow. I've got Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. I'm really trying to make that Twitter actually work because I have like 3 followers or something right now, and I'd like it to actually be functional. But just a thank you to everybody that comes on the show, everybody that comes out to watch. I really appreciate it. Hold on, let me grab some links quick. Those are all the various things you can follow me at. And those are all of the different tournaments currently going on. I want to do a shout out to every single one of those tournaments. You guys are the ones that give me content. You guys are the ones that I'm here for to talk about the competitive scene.
And the units in them.
And the units in them, specifically the units in them, and the people who run them, because holy shit, I imagine that's hard as hell. But yeah, final shout out to everybody on the show. I really appreciate you guys being here. It's always fun to do this, and I will see you guys next week, Thursday at 11 Eastern. Alright, thanks guys.
Later,
Thanks.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace.
Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.